another challenge for IBM's Project Debater. I'm Tonya Hall for ZDNet and Tech Republic, and joining me is Dr. Noam Slonim. He is the Project Debater Principal Investigator at IBM Research. Welcome, Dr. Slonim.
Hi, Tonya. Thank you for hosting me.
Absolutely. What is your role at IBM Research?
So I'm the Principal Investigator of Project Debater. It's a project that we started in 2012, and I serve as the technical lead of this project since it started.
Tell us about Project Debater and the debate held like last June, I think it was, in 2018 with humans. Talk about that.
So Project Debater is a grand challenge of IBM Research. As you probably know, we have an interesting tradition in IBM Research of grand challenges back from the 90s with Deep Blue and then Watson at Jeopardy. And just a few days after the exposure of Watson at Jeopardy, there was a call for proposal across our entire IBM Research division, asking each and every one of the thousands of researchers that we have in IBM Research to propose what should be the next grand challenge. And I came up with this proposal. It was back in February 2011 that we will develop a machine that will be able to debate humans, and that this is how we will demonstrate the technology through a full live debate between this system and expert human debaters. And after a long review process, after a year actually, in February 2012, this was selected as the next grand challenge for IBM Research. We started to work with a small team in June 2012, and this team gradually evolved. And after 6 years of work, dedicated solely to this mission of developing a machine that will be able to debate humans, we demonstrated the system for the first time out of IBM in a small event in San Francisco. This was back in June. 2 full live debates between this system, now being called Project Debater, and expert human debaters. And I believe it was in a manner that was surprisingly similar to the vision that we had back in the office in Tel Aviv 6 to 7 years earlier when we came up with this proposal. And that was it.
IBM has a new challenge for Project Debater in 2019. Explain speech by crowd. What motivated you to take this kind of direction, and how does it work?
So it's a good question. We started to discuss how people could experience the technology beyond watching a full live debate on the podium. And we had a lot of discussions between us. And Project Debater, as we understand, is all about decision making. And decisions often do not have simple answers. Okay, so what do? We can go and read and educate ourselves from the literature, or we can all go and ask our friends and colleagues for their opinions. So we had this thought, what will happen if we will ask many people to share their opinions, or more precisely, their arguments about controversial topics, and let project debaters somehow digest this information into a compelling narrative. And so this was the original thought, and we started to work on that just a few months ago. And we did a small experiment in IBM Research. Actually, we proposed 2 controversial topics and asked our colleagues from the entire IBM Research division to share their arguments, and adjusted the technology in order to generate coherent narratives out of that. And it's a very interesting experience because it opens actually new challenges.
What processing will your AI apply to the opinions that it hears, and how will it actually use this information?
So up to now, the technology was used to analyze and examine data that was coming from a massive corpus of newspaper articles, billions of sentences. But these are sentences that were edited and reviewed and written, for example, in the context of opinion articles. What we have now is actually people typing in their own arguments without any editing. So we need somehow to overcome issues of typos and bad grammar and so on. And moreover, we need to pay more attention to the question of the quality of the arguments that we are considering. So we have this cascade of engines that are considering the arguments that are being fed to the system, trying to, first of all, identify the top quality arguments. And once this is done, we try to somehow remove redundancy, because we should anticipate that different people may come up with the same thought independently. So we need to automatically identify that these two arguments that are perhaps using different wordings are actually conveying the same idea. After that, we need to automatically organize these arguments into the underlying themes that are relevant to the controversial topic that we are discussing. And finally, we need somehow to arrange all that into an easy-to-digest narrative. So at a very high level, this is the process of starting with arguments being entered by many, many different people at many different places independently of one another, and ending up with a narrative, a persuasive narrative.
What role might basic human standards of morality, empathy, and decency play? I mean, the golden rule, for example. Are these a part of the data set?
So we don't guide people, what to enter. We just ask them, for example, a classical debate topic could be whether or not gambling should be banned, okay? And they can say whatever they want. We only restrict them in terms of length. So we ask them to be relatively concise, but we tell them, share with us your most inspiring and most thoughtful arguments. And they can touch on practical issues. They can bring hardcore evidence that they are familiar with. They can touch on ethical issues or moral issues. And it is, to some extent, the role of the system to be able to arrange all that into something that we can digest very quickly. So it's a very challenging task. And we started with that. To be honest, we felt that this is very similar to the things that we were doing already. So one of the motivation was that this is very close to what we already did, so it should be fairly easy. But we understand as we move forward that this is very, very challenging and very exciting.
Human opinion is often influenced because humans have a stake in the decisions and actions that are made. What stake does AI have in when it takes an opinion or position?
So first of all, it's an interesting question, and it touches on an interesting subtlety, because we do not really ask people to share their opinions. We ask them to share their arguments, their thoughts, okay? So if you have a very effective argument, even if this does not necessarily reflect your own opinion, we are interested to hear that, okay? And so first of all, we are trying somehow to generate these top quality persuasive speeches based on the arguments being contributed by people, not necessarily based on their own opinions. So I hope this somehow clarifies this subtlety.
What else might we expect to see from Project Debater in 2019?
So beyond speech by crowd, which is going to be exposed at CES for the first time ever next year, a week, we are expecting to have the grand challenge moment. Okay, we are expecting to have a full live debate between Project Debater and a world champion debater. This will happen during February at Think at San Francisco. So we are very, very excited towards this moment. This will be open to the entire world. It will be live streamed. So it's not an event with kind of 50 journalists. Rather, it's in front of a large audience at San Francisco. And also everybody can watch that live. And it's a debater with a different caliber than those that we competed with so far. So it's an exciting moment for the team.
Dr. Noam Slonim, Project Debater, Principal Investigator, IBM Research. Thank you again for taking some time to join us to talk about this. If somebody wants to find you, maybe they want to understand more about Project Debater, how can they do that?
So I'll be at CES, and obviously my homepage at IBM is available. And also I encourage everybody to visit the homepage of Project Debater.
Thanks again. And if you guys want to find more of my interviews, you can do that right here on ZDNet or Tech Republic, or go to my website, tonyahall.net. Thanks for watching.